And for game number 1, and I'm kind of in agreement with you here, and it's really funny to see the lower seeded teams are typically the ones that play the most aggressive. We saw it out of the Valkyries yesterday. We've seen it out of the Scarabs before, where they do like going for these red and purple invades in these early fights. Valkyries made a name for themselves, and they drug that game on for 45 minutes by the end of it all, and even still in the second game they were able to bring it through. So I'm curious to see if the Scarabs are going to bring that same level of energy. They've had their time now to kind of mature with Scream, kind of see what his identity is going to bring for this team. So I'd like to see that early aggression. Honestly, either of these teams could pull that so easily.
I think so too. And immediately the Scarabs, despite being in first pick, they banned Artemis first overall, and that's somewhat telling to me here, J-Mac, that Artemis is the type of pick that even if you don't want it necessarily with what your game plan is going to be, you can probably get the enemy team to ban that for you in second pick. So I think a slight mistake, even if it's just in ordering of their bans here for the Solar Scarabs. You know, if you want to ban Osiris, Erlong Shen, and then go with the Artemis, I think I'd like that a little bit more. I'm never a fan of banning a top pick first overall because it makes the picks and bans much easier to adjust to for the Titans.
I think Baronic might be a little happy here that he doesn't have to play the Tiamat like he's kind of been forced into by so many teams. That does get banned away alongside the Terra. That's been a very popular pick there for Bobby in that support role. We do see that Artemis, like you talked about, banned away along with the Osiris and the Erlong Shen. A little bit of a shout there to Scream, who's been playing that god a little bit more consistently in these last few weeks of play. Still one more ban available for the Titans. Curious to see where they'll make their option towards it. Do you think they go for that mid lane ban with maybe a Morgan Le Fay? No. So that's going to be the Fenrir.
I like this pick, though, of where they ban, because now the Solar Scarabs, wow, they take Yemoja. Okay, so that is not what I was expecting.
No.
I was expecting the Solar Scarabs to take Morgan Le Fay, and then you get to go Yemoja plus whatever you want, plus, you get Raijin before the ban phase. So you end up with a strong mage no matter what, and you end up with a little bit more. As it stands, this is still fine if you're the Tartarus Titans, but because you get Morgan Le Fay and Odin. I knew there was one pick that had gotten through, and it does happen to be the Odin, who was good against Yemoja, so I think the Scarabs kind of picking themselves a counter matchup in this spot. And the Titans have shown that they're willing to go with this Odin in support, where other teams might not be. So this gets even more value for the Titans, because they know that it's a flex selection for them, and the Scarabs can't really be sure of where that Odin's going to line up.
Yeah, that is kind of the one interesting portion of both of these teams is they flex gods that many other teams wouldn't. Normally Hercules, more often than not, is going to be thrown into that solo lane as of recent, but Inbound is one of those players who still will play it into the support role, or he can give it over to SOT to throw it into that solo lane as well. Same here over to the Titans with the Odin. They can give the Odin over to Benji, or Aurora could just grab it for himself. We'll see where they end up lining all of that out. Gilgamesh and Ram locked in. Very early Wheelish locked in here on the side of the Titans to try and synergize with that Morgan Le Fay.
And this is a pick that Layers likes quite a bit. He's a Willix fan for sure. And when you think of a Willix was going to be on this match, you would have potentially expected it on the other side for the Scarabs, knowing that there's the Odin. But with the Gilgamesh, with the Yemoja, remember that whenever Yemoja was really pretty new to the SPL and dominating at a pretty high level, a Willix was one of those first counter picks that we saw start to come through, because anytime she or one of her teammates goes through Riptide, they are gravity surgeable. So that is a pretty good matchup for him in that way. And plus Morgan Le Fay has the knockup with the Dragonflight. So I like this Willix pick pretty early here for the Titans.
When you see Merlin and Cucullin as the first two bans coming through, Titans taking some shots here at the mid laner to try and push Baronic a little further into that god pool. The Tiamat's gone, the Morgan Le Fay's gone, now the Merlin. Would not be surprised to maybe see
right?
a Raijin ban here. That's exactly where my mind was going, is ban the Raijin, put him a little bit further into the god pool. And when the Raijin goes down, where does Baronic go to next?
Man, that's a good question. Hera is the god that we've seen. They actually don't ban Raijin, they ban Loki. So if they decide to take the Merlin away before the Raijin, I probably would not have done it that way, because I think Raijin is probably just a little bit better. Though Baronic has shown that he's very good on the Merlin. A little surprised this is the way they decided to go. Loki, I suppose, just one of those power farmers that once he gets into the later stages, hard to shut down. And Scream has got to be the primary win condition for the Scarabs these days, so taking one of those carry picks out of his hands does make sense to me, but I think that I would have been pretty tempted to double ban onto Baronic there and see which direction he goes after that.
And kind of in response to that, it's a very interesting methodology of banning the Izanami. Now, I know Cyclone is probably the most popular player to throw this one out there as far as the SPL goes. He's not the only one playing the Iza, but he's definitely the one playing it the most. It feels a little strange throwing a ban that direction when they still could have maybe gone for a couple of other spots onto there, maybe another support ban onto there, maybe a solo lane ban. I just don't know how I feel about an Izanami ban.
I mean, it's guaranteed pressure in your duo lane. It's really been Panda Cat and Cyclone's been playing it. And if you're going to go something like Odin Izanami, that is such guaranteed pressure in your duo lane that it can be hard to fight against. So I don't mind the Izanami ban here for the Scarabs. I think it fits what the Titans are looking to do with this draft. I mean, Odin, Awilix, those are early game slanted gods that are going to try and get you some leads and control space in team fights. And Izanami is just one of those gods that would contribute to that pretty well. So I don't have a problem with the Izanami ban necessarily, especially knowing how much Cyclones liked it as of late.
SOT is going to be able to get the Cerberus over into the solo lane pick, and a Raijin on the side for Baronic.
And what I'm going to latch onto here, Mifflin, the true test. Bobby has a 12.5% win rate on this Yemoja this year. They have won a single game picking it up, and we'll get to see if Scream is going to be the difference maker for him. But it just feels like there's so much to latch onto. It's so much fun to have.
So if the Scarabs win this, Bobby's win rate goes down to 11.5%.
Yeah,
and
it goes down to 11.
If he loses, 11.
It goes down to 11.
Yeah, and if he wins, up to 25%.
Yeah, it doubles if he wins this game. He's only won one. Is that even enough time to get some of that synergy online? I mean, Paul and Scary played together for 2 years straight.
I mean, there's something to be said about the honeymoon phase in any given match. I thought maybe we'd see the no escape come out from Aurora here, but very often when you join a team for the first time or when you're new to a team.
And now you're like, okay, I need to prove my worth to these other SPL teams to showcase that I am needed. Well, we're about 5.5 minutes in. It's a steady 500 gold right now in favor of the Titans. No first blood on the board. So all of that's coming through farming. There was a Chernabog ult getting the slow applied. But it doesn't seem like Cyclone's going to go for the rotation. I think he dove over into his lane. Got a lot of damage on the Stewart, but not quite the kill. It's Layers going for an invade here. Inbound's the one who's caught out. He's taking a little bit of chunks damage.
Yikes.
The gravity surge over the wall, not enough to pull him in, but it doesn't matter. Paul still finds the damage to get the kill for the first blood. Veronic's returning a little bit onto Paul. He's a little under half health. No escape. Comes through for a roar. Not going to pull anybody this time. 2 pairs of beads burn, and the Titans are going to walk away.
Man, Layers does a lot there. The Puma over the wall for the knockup essentially clinches that kill. Bobby.
All in all, more protections, more neutral camps going the way of the Titans.
But silver linings for the Scarabs, they do at least get back to the point where they're fighting at full strength. All ultimates available, all their beads available as well, so Layers got to work pretty hard here.
What a pull back from inbound, and he gets
Twice!
it again! Layers gets locked down. This time the snipes not going to ring true for Stewart, but it doesn't matter. Scream's right here to help secure the kill. They drop 2 ults, but they kill their old jungler.
That might be the first time I've ever seen Bobby drop a taunt on a corpse. There seems to be a little bit of bad blood on the battleground here today. I'm excited to see how this one pans out. Great lockdown from inbound. Obviously, those Riptides so clean.
I mean, just 2 of them in a row, and not just the one. You
so nice had to do it to him twice.
Layers into an awkward position, and then you do it again, and then you throw the Rivers Rebuke up just to make sure he knows he can't get out of there. Cyclone Spin can use his ult to help engage in mid lane. Baronic taking a lot of damage, trying to return some, but that's Morgan Le Fay, and that's going to be Paul's number 2 for the game.
Look, man, you gotta control Paul now if you're on the Solar Scarab. Someone has to rotate in and put some pressure on him, and they've got great gods for it. Gilgamesh on his own with Winds of Shamash has great tools, but that Dragonflight is so hard to deal with, and this is exactly what, again, Aggro was talking about on the desk. Man, he's right all the time.
Still pairing the gold in favor of the Titans, starting to push the envelope of 2,000 gold now. And this Gold Fury may be ever more important for the Scarabs. They're going to start it up right here and now. Aurora happens to be in the neighborhood. No vision for the Titans. He's going to be able to peek it. There's a Riptide to keep Aurora locked down for a little bit. But he's walking forward. Scarabs secure it. Ares just a little too either early or late, depending on which chain you want to talk about there.
Removing the objective from the map. The Tartarus Titans had so much control.
Oh, but Stewart's going to be the one in trouble now. Cyclone Spin goes for the ult dive
Yeesh.
onto a Layers, looking for the jump over the wall, finds it, not going to be able to get the knock up. Stewart up in the sky, but there are sharks in the water, Stewart. Where are you going to go after this? A roll into the tier 2 tower, and Scream showing up is enough to thwart this push from the Titans. Now inbounds over here. Scream looking to get aggressive, but Paul is in the jungle right now. The Scarabs need to rethink this aggression. It seems like they're going to. They fall back immediately and cede their jungle to the Titans.
Surprised to see Inbound. You're playing with so much patience there. You'd think you'd want to move in and catch him out, but maybe it's him that's getting caught out.
Well, now locked up, about 2/3 HP. The River's Rebuke thrown up. Stewart joins the fight, and Baronic's coming through. Now he has the shots, the ult. It's going to burn through Aurora before the ult can come in, but Stewart is the one who ends up falling inbound. One hit away. Cyclone trying to lock it up. Scream falls on the other side. Benji with a massive rotation and an even bigger cage helps lock that down. Cyclone over the wall gets inbound. It's a roar for 3 on the other side.
That is so tough, and that's just that hesitation we saw from Baronic and Inbound getting exploited here by the Tartarus Titans. We thought maybe Yamoja rotates in, catches out the Titans for having to walk through this dual lane tier 1 tower. Not the case. Hovers inside to SOT's own red buff. That's his side of the map, but somehow Odin gets there first, drops the cage, separates the engagement, and again pushes it further in favor of the Tartarus Titans. So our Scarabs were able just a moment ago to cut that gold lead slightly by stripping the gold Fury, but already we're back at 3K.
And now Scream is chained, not stunned, in the jungle, right by his own speed buff. 3 members of the Titans are collapsing in on him. One more tick is going to do it. Ares is the one who picks up the kill this time. Aurora surrounded by 4 members of the Titans. A great blink from Layers to reposition. And they're going to be able to fall back away from the Scarabs.
Well, Stewart hasn't stepped up to take the engagement 2 levels, now slowly turning it to 3, 18 to 15 in the ADCs, and Tartarus Titans, they want the Fury this time.
You can see the Scarabs' animosity towards Layers. 4 members in the right-hand jungle, 3 of them looking at the tier 2 and solo, where only Layers exists. Now maintaining control, some mid-camps again going back and forth, split between the 2 teams. Right now, it's only the Fire Giant that is considerably the biggest neutral objective on the map. Technically, the Draugr is way over there on the left-hand side, but no one's looking towards that. In fact, it's Inbound who's getting looked at, stunned out by Benji. Gonna use the Riptide to try and disengage, and it's gonna get him just far enough.
Great
the
cage!
Is dropped onto Stewart. SOT looking to help get them out of there. Benji is gonna jump back. Inbound's incredibly low. The chains connect, and Aurora gets the kill onto his opposing support. SOT, half health, forced to fall back. Stewart as well, forced to run away. Veronic is getting engaged on Benji, maybe diving too deep. The shield gonna help him get out of there. The jump in from Scream. The snipes looking to be good. One more shot is all it takes, just off the mark from Stewart. The Scarabs aren't able to pick up one this time.
And while that skirmish was happening, Cyclone Spin tries to split push mid, but loses his beads for his efforts.
And now he's just trying to turn some damage around. Scream gets aggressive once again. Cyclone Spin gets out alive thanks to the collapse from the Titans, but a very narrow miss. Beads that Aegis, saving his life there and making sure he gets out, at least this time.
I think that's the first time Cyclone Spin has been forced to use his relics. The HP bars at the end of the engagement. The only 2 players to really take damage there are Benji and Cyclone Spin. Cyclone, because he gets caught out slightly trying to take out the tier 2 tower, drops it down to about 50% in mid, and Benji, because he just walked into 5 members of the Scarabs for like a full minute.
Well, we had mentioned that Wind Demon. Now I think it's worth mentioning the Deathbringer online, and I mention it because it's helping burn down this Fire Giant about as fast as you can imagine. Already 1/8 HP. Nobody's going to be able to get in there from the Scarabs, and now the Titans are looking to turn it around. Scream at half health, forced to jump over the wall. The disengage is good. The cage is a little bit better, though. Captures Inbound, captures SOT. They kill one. They're looking to kill another. Meanwhile, Cyclone Spin goes in and is just absolutely helping with the health bars, but finally a little bit of return damage. Baronic gets the kill onto Cyclone, but loses Stewart and himself for the process. You lose your carry, but you get 4, maybe 5 if Layers can find Sock.
All Layers has to do is stop this back. I mean, as long as he doesn't die, that right side Phoenix is going down. 20 seconds left on stream, 10 seconds left on your level 13 Yamoja. I think it's going to be a very tough defense, and now without SOT, easy and maybe an impossible one. But that Phoenix is burning slow, Gore. They're not going so fast.
They don't have Cyclone Spin to help burn through layers as well. The only other physical damage not available for
They're
him.
still going.
The Odin finally helping get rid of that right-hand Phoenix, but not fast enough to get the end. You would highlight. Unfortunately for him, it cost him his life. But I guess counterpoint, fortunately for him, he never had to back to base like the rest of those chumps on the Titan. He was already there to buy his items and reset, ready to come tear it down. They get the Fury, and now they're knocking down the left side, Tier 2. Already, you had highlighted earlier that Tier 2 in mid was half health thanks to Cyclone Spin. It's going to get knocked down by Layers in Benji.
Inbounds.
Inbounds looking to get aggressive traps. Paul right here. River's Rebuke is going to be enough to at least keep him locked in for a little bit. Now Scream going maybe too deep onto Cyclone Spin. The egg is going to be used, keeps him alive inbound, ends up losing his life first. Stewart is one hit away, and that's going to be dealt by Benji. Baronic in the same position, but it's Aurora who's chasing him down. That Aegis can only keep you alive for so long. Scream forced to fall back as he watches the rest of the Scarabs die. 5 members strong for the Titans. They tear down the left side Phoenix. They tear into the Titan, and they take game number 1.
Conceptually, I love the call from the Solar Scarabs there to try and do their best, try and engage that fight, considering Benji and Layers both show themselves in that Tier 2 tower in mid. Essentially,
The fight starts. It's Scream jumping in, doing what he can. A River's Rebuke comes up. And that was kind of it. You know, it felt like the follow-up wasn't quite there, and the commit from the rest of the team also a little bit lacking this time for the Scarabs.
I think a testament to how far ahead and how confident the Titans were at the end of the game was one thing that Goro pointed out was Cyclone Spin dove into 2 people with his Living Nightmare with no relics available to him, just slammed right down in on the top of that one and able to take them down and get themselves a Game 1 victory for it. And a lot of it, like we said, out of this duo lane, Roar with this Ares pick looked really good in game number 1. Maybe we see some shy bans for it in game 2.
I think that there's a potential for that. Certainly in the second phase, if there's going to be a position where you have to do it. But Layers looked solid on the Willix. I mean, that was something that everyone was going to be paying attention to, of course. For what it's worth, I thought Inbound probably had his best Yamoja performance individually in a while. I thought that he made some really good mechanical plays. Obviously, bouncing Layers on that one was really clean. But overall, I thought he played okay despite the score line. It was Solar Troll and Scream were not on the same page on a lot of those initiations. Scream was just unable to be effective really at all. Scarabs went massively wrong in their picks and bans. I think that it was more on-the-field execution than anything else.
We'll see if they can shake things up here in game number 2. They have gone for the first pick option yet again. And we'll see where they elect to sway their bans for. It is still going to be that Artemis. We kind of talked on this in game number 1 where they're just banning away the Artemis. They're not willing to give it over to Stewart right now, and no matter how good the pick is, you still got to be able to at least throw it into there.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about picks and bans theory. I really think that picks and bans is like a theory crafting course more than anything else, and that's what makes it really fun to speculate on. And I'm like I said in game 1, I think banning a first pickable god that has the potential to make it through picks and bans from the first slot is very telling. A lot like banning Morgan Le Fay here, right? That you know that now that is never going to be the first pick for the Scarabs. They're going to value something like a Yamoja over that, maybe Gilgamesh, maybe Odin. All of those gods might seem more attractive to them right now than Morgan Le Fay. And it's never just about this one set or this one game, because these picks and bans get studied by coaches and players from opposing teams all the time. And those sorts of things stand out, I think, when it comes down to it.
And it kind of starts to reflect on your general play style for it. We do see Tiamat and Terra banned away, along with the Heimdall. Gets taken away by the Tartarus Titans there. Artemis, Morgan Le Fay, as you pointed out, and the Osiris banned away. And that leaves the Odin on the table for the Solar Scarabs. They're going to grab that one. Still a little bit of flexibility, though. Most likely, Solar Troll going to pilot that one over into the Soul. It seems to be the more comfortable spot for him.
It does, but we're talking so much pregame about the Hercules for inbound, the Serket for inbound. If there's a player alongside Aurora that I think the Odin support would fit, I think inbound could be one of them to pull it out. And I think that if I'm the Scarabs, I'd make the Titans at least be honest with their bans. You know, keep them honest with how they're going to want to make their picks. And if Umoja gets taken, is what I was about to say, and it does here for the Titans, then there's no reason for them to show their solo laner or support in this spot. I think you've got 3 roles to take between these 2 picks, between your mid and your ADC and your jungle. I think I would be very keen on locking in 2 out of those 3 and leaving where this Odin goes a bit up in the air.
It's going to be the Ymir locked
Fair
in
enough.
first. So they're going to go ahead and
Okay.
grab their frontliner right off the bat and make sure that they do have their support. So we will see Bobby piloting this one in the duo lane, while SOT will take the Odin over on the far side of the map. And a Merlin gets locked in. That was banned away from Baronic in game number 1. Now he's going to have the chance to see what he can do with this god in game 2.
Look, as much as I just went on a long spiel about how I don't want them to pick their support, at least they pick a high-value support that has potential to really run the game. And Ymir does that. And it's good against the first 2 picks, and it happens to be pretty good against the 3rd pick as well in this Erlong Shen. So it ends up being a bit odd and not exactly what I was asking for, but I think pretty good here for the Solar Scarabs. Getting Merlin for Baronic makes a ton of sense, and because the Titans don't take Raijin for Paul like I was expecting, I would expect like Raijin Hell bans in this spot if I'm the Scarabs. Maybe the Hell doesn't scare you as much because you have the Odin cage, but Paul has kind of shown that he's going to be able to navigate that kind of stuff anyways. So I think I'd be double banning Paul here if I were in the Solar Scarabs position.
So far, we do see one of those bans. It is going to be the Raijin taken away. And onto the flip side of it, the Titans are going to be focusing a lot into the jungle, making sure to take Fenrir and Camazotz off the table, which have been kind of premier picks here for Layers, and even onto the flip side for Scream as well. They both really do like these 2 gods, so I do enjoy seeing the Titans take that one away. And the Erlong Shen seems like a flip from the Awelish, where Awelish is the I want to bring them to me, Erlong Shen is I want to go to them. How does that kind of play style flip around for that jungler?
I like it for Layers. It's aggressive. It allows him to be a setup man for the front line, for the back line rather, of the Tartarus Titans, and that's what I think they need their jungler to be. They don't need a superstar in that role. They don't need something crazy. They just need someone who's going to let Paul do his thing, let Cyclone Spin do his thing.
Before I even try and break it down, I'm going to see if it gets locked in, and
Yeah,
it does not. No chance. If we saw, that would have been a crazy lock in. Would that have put the Umoja in solo lane then?
Probably, yeah. The Umoja hasn't been solo lane viable in a long time, okay? Maybe ever, if you ask me, but certainly not as strong as she used to be overall, and not strong enough to warrant a solo lane pick.
Good thing we don't have to break down too much onto that. It will be the Cerberus locked in instead, keeping that Umoja in the hands of a Roar to make sure that he can really elevate that dual lane. Did it well with the Ares. We'll see if he can do it with the Umoja. Rom right next to him onto that. Next to Solar Scarabs, they have their options available. They don't need their mid laner, they need their Hunter, and they need their jungler to be locked in here. Lots of openings still available for them. We'll grab the On Her, put that one over into the hands of the Hunter. And now, still looking one more time for their jungler. A lot of options available for Scream.
Very interesting as we wait for Scream's pick that it's Cerberus against Odin for both teams. That tells me that multiple solo laners are feeling like that's a good enough matchup, that that's the direction you want to go in. It just surprises me because even though Cerberus has a way to get out of the Odin cage, when do you get to Cerberus ult an Odin? Because he has knockup immunity in the 3. So it completely negates Stygian Torment in the laning phase as long as he holds his 3. So I'm not in love with that sort of game plan up against
Erlong into, I mean,
Yeesh.
if they get caught, the Titans are caught.
That's true. But Gore, I've never more clearly realized the difference between you and I than I did in that sentence alone. You're glad to see Odin coming back. Here's
Well-
the thing about playing console League Smite, Gore.
Okay.
Odin was in every game. He was in contested, pick and ban, and it got to the point that he was so dominant that scrim partners would just agree, all right, look, we're not going to ban him, but you're not allowed to play him in scrims. I'm
Yeah, the
so
gentleman's
used to seeing this Odin that, honestly, I don't want to see him anymore, but
I'm sick
he's
of
good. He's good, though. He's really good right now. He has had a rework since then, and as Aggro already highlighted, has to pop off here if the Solar Scarabs want to beat this Tartarus Titans draft.
That's right, where it's just like, man, this is something that, you know, like Aggro had said, like, you got to come into it with a chip on your shoulder. You should be insulted by this. You should be able to take control. And if you don't, it just feels bad. And this might feel even worse. Layers looking for the body blocks. Leap from SOT will get him back onto the tier 1. And it's Scream going over to the dual lane. Cyclone Spin trying to run away. This time one more auto, but the stun, perfect from Aurora, stops him in his tracks, saves Cyclone Spin, and there's no first blood yet.
Yeah, and all that effort, all that damage you just put in a Cyclone Spin. Here's the thing about how Aurora could heal him for free by left-clicking. He's already back to about 60% HP. Stewart has no potions left and doesn't have a Yamoja on his team, so I'd say somehow that's already showing itself. Layers gank Soul Lane doesn't succeed. Doesn't super matter, though, because there's a ton of farm on that side of the map for junglers. 2 back camps, mid camps as well. Maybe hold that thought, though.
Veronic caught out one more hit.
No way.
Paul
What?
Can't find it. Veronic with no health. I mean, that has to be 50, if not lower, is able to walk away from Layers and Paul. A great disengage, and you have to give credit to Scream, I guess, and to Veronic's movement. The minions help out a little bit. Everybody gets their hand on making sure the mid laner comes out. That is 3 opportunities at first blood we've seen, and yet still no kills.
Sorry, my blood's boiling. I'm going to go back into it. So anyway, Layers ganks the Soul Lane, doesn't succeed, doesn't get punished nearly as hardly as Scream does. He falls behind about a half level because there's no farm on the duo side of the map, and, well, Scream's just going to try again.
He's back over here. Good freeze on the Cyclone. Fear no evil. That
It
one's
worked.
gonna do it. Stewart finds the kill.
Nice.
A great wall from inbound. Locks Aurora in there. The Riptide part 2 and part 3 are going to assist in getting Aurora out of there. Not enough from the ult. Stewart didn't find the damage. One spear connects. Waiting on a wall, a slow, or an overhand smash. All are going to be helpful here. Scream gets himself a kill as well, and the Scarabs find themselves up 2-0.
They do. I mean, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And Layers, prescribing himself to that mentality as well, tries to gank the Soul Lane. Instead, though, settles for a blue buffed invade.
And it's enough to strip away the buff. Sot looking to turn around and fight, potentially, although he's going
to kind of utilize the lead that he's been given.
There's going to be a lot that they have to reckon with as the game continues forward. In fact, the Scarabs are looking for a red buff invade. Look, the timer on that still got a little bit, y'all. You gotta figure out where you're going. Inbound, walks forward, gets a wall on the Paul, and drops into his ult. The Shards of Ice, not gonna be able to find enough, and he ends up falling down. A great knock up from Layers helps seal the deal on that kill. Now you've got Veronic, Stewart, Scream all running away. Cyclone's been looking to make the rotation. A good blink forward from Veronic, or I should say a flicker forward. It's about half health. Benji out of nowhere comes and seals the deal. Good snipes from Cyclone Spin to make sure he's going nowhere, and the Titans tie up the game. But pretty often we've seen that kind of consistently going on, and not just this year, last year too.
No way.
One of the biggest issues, and guess what? He's going to walk forward. Good freeze, looks for the purple steel.
Got it.
He's going to be able to get that
Nice.
good wall to stop Cyclone Spin from dashing, and Cyclone Spin has no mana. Cyclone Spin is dead. Scream with a great rotation and a roar, unable to save anybody this time around. So that's 2 deaths onto the carry. He was the one cyber bullying out Stewart a little bit more, but Stewart also just managed to sneak away that Fury. Aurora is going for a stun. You've got Layers in the jungle, and that's not going to result in any big pickup here, but that Fury just spawned. The Titans kind of feinting some movement over there. Instead, they're going to be getting aggressive more or less onto this red buff. Scream is alone. Layers can see him. The pin ever waiting to lock him down. There's going to be the taunt to pull him right into the stun, just eviscerating the health bar of the jungler for the Scarabs and showing him that you can't quite take his place.
Perfect chain CC there. The stun from Aurora comes through just as he lands from the knock-up from Layers. I mean, Scream essentially wasn't allowed to play that game. He was allowed to put in exactly 1 input, and it was the jump away, and he landed into a pin.
Oh, Rivers Rebuke now locking down the inbound. They are kill hungry. Shards of Ice trying to return some damage. Same thing for Stewart. Gets a lot onto Layers, but not enough to find the kill. Cyclone not going to manage to find that one. Aurora is the one who slips that kill through. Inbound goes down one more time. It was a 2-0 lead to start the game for the Scarabs. Now trailing behind just by 1, 4-3 in favor of the Titans.
And it took the Titans a little bit longer to get where they wanted to go this time around. I'm surprised to see that they don't elect to pull the Gold Fury there, considering Inbound dead. Stewart no ultimate, but instead resets themselves back to neutral at a 2,000 gold lead, and they're scaling in the late game. I mean, Agra already highlighted it. You got to play perfect around this hell.
Well, a good cage onto Benji. Unfortunately, also the only member who can escape the cage, but he's eating a lot of damage in the process. Good pin as Layers joins the fray. Solar Troll has no mana, and Solar Troll has no health. That's going to be a kill for Layers.
Scream
and then
2?
a pull back from Benji, locking down Scream one more time. Benji, credit for that one. 2-0-1 for the Cerberus, 2-0-3 for the Erlong Shen. The Titans are starting to run away.
Feels
Three
so
levels
bad.
here for inbound, but it gives them somewhere to go. Right now, that somewhere has been duo lane. They burn Cyclone Speed's beads in this engagement. And Stewart gets a good couple of autos off there, gets some good damage. But how well can they steal? Gold Fury pulled by the Titans. Inbound, Stewart making their rotations. Inbound spots it, it's low, and they turn right around. They recognize that this is not something they want to fight. Stewart went for the Desert's Fury, did not steal it away. The Titans secure it, but a good play, I still think.
Let's go, Bobby.
And this is what I was going to ask was, it was one of those things, it feels like it's a little early, but at the same time, is Inbound going to get enough gold that he could get another item before getting a Spectral and having it be as effective as he needs, especially with Cyclone Spin as ahead as they are right now. Level-wise, pretty equal, but finish off a Wind Demon 15 minutes into the game feels pretty solid. What else feels pretty solid is the aggression. Titans just running them down inbound. Stunned out Rivers Rebuke, locking him away. Ymir has no way out of here. Shards of Ice going to be used in a good Odin cage. Great freeze. Inbound still alive, but not for much longer. Layers finds the kill there. The Titans regroup as 5, and they start to fall back.
I mean, you've already highlighted the amount of anti-heal the Solar Scarabs have. I think they need to toss an Ankh on top of it, man, because Paul and Aurora together are just doing too much healing. Everyone on the Tartarus Titans have full HP bars right now, and the only person who doesn't is Benji. It's because he's 1v1ing a mid laner on the opposite side of the map. He's not near his healers. I'm not the one who got caught out. That's Bobby. That's not me. And they leave him high and dry, and when you do that, he's probably going to die.
And he did, as it turns out. 0-3-3 right now. He has 100% kill participation for the Scarabs in this game. So that's not doing a lot. Great wall, good freeze onto Aurora, but
So
you're leaving
tanky.
SOT for himself. A good cage, and this is exactly the kind of lockdown we were talking about. Look at how nobody on the Titans could chase down Sot. Unfortunately, he had to use it to get out of there as opposed to get aggressive. Now the Titans are going to take the Pyromancer. Up into the sky goes Cyclone Spin. Snipes, not finding anyone just yet. All 3 shots off the mark. Fear no evil in the back. Solar Troll's the one that's low, though, and he's the first to fall. Benji, credit for the kill. Now Screams in the middle of the Titans, all 5 of them. Turn and look at the jungler. They're trying to burn him down. Layers needs one more hit. Paul will be the one that finds it. They isolate Stewart. Paul gets himself a double, and Baronic is just slowly backstepping. Benji jumps in on him. They've got inbound isolated. The 2 members left for the Scarabs. One is in a 1v4, the others in a 1v1. Walled off the rest of the Titans. Layers gets the best of them. Baronic goes down. That's a deicide, and the Titans, they get a Fire Giant.
Or you know what I noticed? The one takeaway from that entire engagement? The Solar Scarabs didn't look at Paul. Not a single one of them was trying to deal their damage to Paul himself. So what's Paul do? I think he spends 80% of that engagement inside light stance. He's like, all right, heal. Maybe I heal again. Oh, you low health? Yeah, hold a heal. Isn't allowed to step far enough forward to really sink his damage in. The Solar Scarabs clearly on the back foot. Now a Fire Giant on 5 members of the Titans with already a 10,000 gold lead.
Yeah.
We're looking at a 99%.
More gold that could potentially go into the pockets of the Titans. And Sot, Scream are caught out right at the tier 1. That's going to be Benji getting aggressive. He misses the ult, jumps forward, forces the blink out of Scream. I'm sure he's just happy with that, uses his own blink in the process. But look at the rest of the Titans turning to envelop the solo lane.
Yeah, I mean, Benji just wins that fight. SOT has to run. They have to use their blinks defensively, and maybe not enough.
What a pin into a taunt, into a lot of damage, but not enough. Odin makes it out of here. Fear no evil for the disengage, but the team, well, they weren't chasing. So it guaranteed they wouldn't, but also they weren't anyway, and now the tower falls.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Scream wanted them to disengage, and they did, okay? Maybe, sure, Fear No Evil didn't hit anybody, but who cares?
But Cyclone Spin left alone. Crit's doing a lot of work here. His Beads and Aegis doing a little bit more. Doesn't ult and doesn't get out of there. The Scarabs pick up another kill, but at what cost Mifflin? They lose their right side Phoenix. are sieging the tower. 3 members of the Scarabs aren't here. It's a 2v4. A good Odin Cage is looking to help lock down the Titans and keep them isolated. Benji was, I believe, just straight up backing for a second there in the cage. A good wall from inbound as they retreat. Stewart still alone on the left-hand side looking for a split push. As SOT gets aggressive for his team. This right side Phoenix doing no work. It's dead. And Sot going to get pulled right back into the Titans.
Stewart still on the opposite side, going for the split push. So Solar Scarabs taking a 4v4 despite Cyclone Spin being dead. And, well, Tartarus Titans have a massive lead.
And that's going to be a little bit of gold and a Phoenix now open. Stewart still pushing. He has foregone his team, but it is for a good effort. He has been able to take a chip at the gold lead, and he might be able to take that Phoenix. Not quite enough layers. Backs in time. Cyclone respawns as well. So Stewart has to back and run away, but gets a lot done for his team that ultimately creates some openings that literally did not exist for them otherwise.
Does the same thing with Fear No Evil. That's a ton of CC lockdown. The game simplifies on Phoenix defense to the point that you're likely going to be able to work your way into the back line of the Tartarus Titans either way. So maybe, I think if I'm the Scarabs here, I let this Fire Giant go.
Aurora potentially caught out, taken down about a third of his HP, and they're going to Riptide right back in. Rivers Rebuke, the Fire Giant goes to the Titans, and now inbound one more time, caught out as the Titans look to burn through that health bar. Cyclone spins, some snipes from up above, connect on Stewart, and now the beads forced out by Benji, and it's going to be a little bit more than that. Benji goes in for the kill, finds the dunk, they get Baronic, they lock down SOT, he turns and runs the other way, tries to keep the Titans from the Titan itself, but it's only going to keep it alive so much longer. Scream versus the world. Fear no evil. Blink, beads, all available for him here. And he's running down the left-hand side. The Titans are looking for their kill. He is pulling them away. Layers, I think, acknowledges it. Same thing for Cyclone Spin. 3 of the Titans looking for blood. The other 2 are going to be playing for the win. They're going to take game number 2 here, Mifflin, and they do it in a pretty convincing way.
What a tough one, man. I mean, all that poetic waxing we were just doing, kind of worthless. The Solar Scarabs don't decide to give up the Fire Giant or legitimately contest it either. They approach, they see a roar, and they say, yeah, that looks like a pretty good target to me.
Execution, you have games that look like this one, where the Titans kind of just run away with it. And what's interesting to me is that in game 1, we highlight the duo lane. It was the duo lane that played really well for the Titans, Aurora and Cyclone Spin. In this game, it was the right side of the map, where Benji and Layers just dominated throughout the game. And then, of course, you get to the point where your hell is gigantic and unkillable and doing a ton of damage all at the same time, and then it feels impossible to win. But really, the players who deserve the most credit to getting this one rolling in their favor, I think, are Benji and Layers.
Yeah, for sure, those 2 really look strong on that side of the map. You said, countering to what we saw in game number 1, for Layers looked very comfortable on this along Shen. Benji, a menace on this Cerberus. And as you said, Paul just getting to exist in the mid lane. And when you just get to exist as a hell in any game, it's got to be a good feeling.
You just get to points like this, where you're level 20 late in the game, and your heals all of a sudden burst heal for 1,000,000. You do 1,000,000 damage with your repulse and all that kind of stuff, and you have a bunch of CDR. And once he gets to the upgrade, that Sands of Time, it feels pretty difficult to stop. He actually did less player healing than Aurora and 100 more damage. Not even.
We'll take a look at the standings first and foremost. The Tartarus Titans, they end up ruining the potential of the 8 down to 1. Instead, they tied up with 4 with the Oni Warriors with their victory today. Solar Scarabs, again, fall down to the bottom of the standings at that 1 and 8.
I'm curious to see what the Titans are going to do moving forward. I mean, you hear Paul in that interview say that they're feeling a lot more confident with Scary D, or with Scary D on the bench and with Layers in their starting lineup. You have to think that when you hear something like that maybe it might be a little bit more of a permanent solution, but it is just one set. Excited to see what they're going to look like up against the Bolts later on this weekend, because this is going to be a big weekend for the Titans. You know, if they come out of this weekend, or excuse me, they are against the Bolts. I'm sorry. If they come out of this weekend at 2-0 against a Bolts team that was undefeated coming into this week.